Hey guys, Irene here. Today I'm gonna show you guys how I edited the images from my how to shoot like Sean Archer video. In no way that I'm saying that this is exactly how he edits. I actually have no idea how he does it, but this is just my guess and me trying to get a similar looking picture to what he does in post. So hopefully you guys will learn some new techniques here and will be able to apply it to your own style and your own work. I'm going to go over a few key techniques that I think are the most important to achieving Sean Archer's style, and I'm going to start with the Liquify tool. Before I start, I always duplicate my layer, so you want to right click on the background and click duplicate layer. We want to do this just because if we do mess up something in the image, we will be able to go to the original one. And I'm going to go into filter and liquify. By the way, I just updated to Photoshop 2018. There's a really new cool feature called Face Aware Liquify, which uses a face recognition, and you can edit the face of the model a lot easier and make it look a lot more natural. We're gonna play with it just a little bit, but first I'm gonna edit her hair with just a simple brush. I'm gonna make mine just a little bit smaller, and I'm just gonna go ahead and lightly pull the hair to the side. I noticed that in a lot of Sean's pictures, the hair looks very voluminous and it has a lot of body to it, and I can definitely see that he uses the Liquify tool quite a lot. The key here is to be very delicate when you're using the Liquify tool. Make sure you're not overdo it, because then it's gonna start looking very fake. So I think I'm gonna stop here, and the hair looks so much bigger now. I'm gonna also pull the shoulders down just a touch to elongate her neck. Again, we're doing very little delicate subtle movements here, okay? In a lot of his pictures, the models have the tiniest waist ever, and I mean, you can easily achieve that with some Liquify. I'm not gonna go for that look, but I will make her waist just a little bit smaller. But this model already has beautiful figures, so we do not have to do much here. Now let's play with the Face Aware Liquify. What I really like here is you can change the size of the eyes very easily. So as you can see, this is moving her left eye right here. I mean, you can go crazy. Obviously, we're not going to do that, but I do want to make her eye just slightly bigger. Same with the other eye, and I'm just going to move it slightly. Just like that. Okay, that is perfect. I'm just going to go ahead and press OK. And this is the before and after the Liquify tool. As you can see, just with these subtle changes, you can see a huge difference in the overall image. And I think that this is really important in making your images stand out. It's that attention to little details, little small subtle changes make a huge difference. You guys know I like to merge my layers, but you can keep the layers if you want to tweak them in the future. I usually don't, so I just merge them. I'm gonna go ahead and work on the skin next. So again, I'm gonna go ahead and duplicate the layer just the same way, and I'm gonna be using patch tool. So I'm gonna go a little bit closer on the model's face. You can find the patch tool where the healing brush is. Just right click on it, and there's the patch tool right here. I'm gonna change my opacity to about 75 or 74, and I'm just gonna go ahead and start correcting the skin here. All I'm doing is selecting a part of the skin that has an imperfection and moving it to the side that is clear. I noticed that Sean prefers that really perfect skin with not too much texture, so that's what I'm gonna do here as well. Okay, so here is the patch tool on the face. Here's before and after. I absolutely love using patch tool. I think it's amazing. So now I'm gonna go ahead and work just a little bit on her arms and her legs because I want to smooth those out as well. I'm gonna go ahead and merge this and create another duplicate layer, and I'm gonna show you guys another technique that I like to use for areas that are a little bit bigger, that I don't want to spend too much time on, like arms and legs. So I'm gonna go ahead and take my selection tool. I'm gonna select this lighter area here, and now I'm gonna use a soft rounded brush, and I'm just gonna make this a little bit bigger, and I'm just gonna go ahead and apply it on top of where that color is. Now I'm gonna go ahead, take my selection tool again and select this darker color right here, and with the same brush I'm gonna lightly brush that on top of where that color is. Now I might have went over the lines just a little bit, so I'm gonna take the eraser tool and erase just a little bit, making sure that the color didn't get on the dress. And here's the before and after. As you can see, it softens the skin a lot. I don't want it too much, so I'm just gonna lower the opacity just a little bit, just like that. And I'm gonna do absolutely the same to the legs. Select the color, and then with a really big soft rounded brush, I'm just gonna brush it on top of her leg. And I'm gonna do the same here. And then again with my eraser, I'm just gonna go ahead and erase whatever I think should be erased. So here's before and after for the legs and the arms. Again, I usually use it for the areas that are a lot bigger and where I don't really want to take too much time with, like arms and legs. And usually for the face, I would use the patch tool. I'm gonna go ahead and merge the layers. So now I want to work on the background, and I know that Sean actually usually prefers to shoot on a solid dark background like black, and then he adds the color and the texture in post. So I don't have a black solid backdrop, but I had these awesome textured ones from Kate Backdrops, and I will link it in the description down below. Since I will be using similar colors and textures anyways, I thought that this will meet me kind of halfway there, but I will still work on the background a little bit more. So I'm gonna duplicate the layer first, and I'm gonna get rid of some of the texture that it already has because it's a little bit different than what I want to add in. So I'm gonna do it a very lazy way, very similar to how we just did the skin. So I'm gonna take the selective tool and I'm gonna select the color right here. And again, with that same big, soft, rounded brush, I'm gonna lightly brush the color around the model, just to get rid of the texture. And then again, I'm selecting the color where it kind of changes a little bit and brushing it there. There's a darker color here, so I'm gonna choose that and brush it on top. Now, don't be afraid if it gets on the model's hair a little bit. Because we duplicated the layer, we will be able to grab our eraser tool and erase it anywhere that it went on to the model. Okay, so yeah, I'm just grabbing these different colors and just painting it on. And with a smaller brush around the model. Alright, so that looks great. Now I'm going to take that eraser tool, and with the smaller brush, I'm just going to go ahead and erase around the model. Now, as I said, this is a pretty lazy way of doing this. You could definitely cut the model out with the lasso tool and do this a lot more precise. For me, I really like this way. I don't see that much of a big difference if I cut her out or if I don't. Again, just because we will be adding the texture, more texture later, I think that this way is just fine. Alright, so here is before and after. Oops. So here is before and after smoothing out the backdrop. I'm gonna lower the opacity just a little bit and show just a tiny bit of the texture, and I'm just gonna merge the layers. I'm gonna go ahead and color grade this a little bit. So I'm gonna choose adjustment layer here and choose selective color. I'm gonna start with the reds, and I always keep this at absolute here instead of relative. Let's make them darker, more yellow, and more red. Okay, that looks great. Now I'm gonna choose the yellows and make them a little bit more yellow, a little bit darker again. I'm gonna choose the cyans, which is gonna correspond to mostly our background, and I wanna make them a little bit more yellow, darker, and just kind of more muted. Sean usually does a very muted, neutral color for the background, and it really works with making the model stand out against your background more. Okay, so this is before and after the color grading. I'm gonna create another selective color, and I'm gonna choose whites here. I'm gonna make them just a little bit lighter here and add a little bit of yellow to it. Just a little bit like that. Okay, that looks great. I'm gonna make another one, and I'm gonna choose the reds. I'm gonna tone the red color down just a little bit here, and this is gonna be for the skin. So I'm toning the red down and making it a little bit more, yeah, just like that. And now I want to apply what I just did only to the skin, excluding everything else. So I'm gonna go ahead and invert the layer mask with Control I. That way we can pick our brush and now apply what we just did only to the areas that we want to, which in my case is skin. So I'm gonna go ahead and now paint this only on top of her skin. I just thought that the skin was a little bit too red in some spots. Okay, so this is before and after the skin, a very subtle difference. We just took some of the reds out of there. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and merge all of my layers here, and I'm gonna go ahead and apply the texture background now. So here are some of the free textures that I got from this website called Brusheezy. You can pay for a monthly subscription to them, or you can get some of their free textures for free. So this is what I did, and I will leave the link to the same one that I used here. So I'm gonna go ahead and use this texture right here. And I know that this is a weird color, but don't worry, we're going to change the color of this texture very soon. So I'm going to go ahead and match this to the size of my image and apply the texture. And now I'm going to go ahead into image adjustments and vibrance. And this is only going to affect our texture layer. So I want to get rid of those colors, and I'm just going to make this black and white. I'm going to press OK. And here on our blending mode, I'm going to choose soft light. Now you can go ahead and experiment with different blending modes. There's multiply, there's screen, there's overlay. Different ones will give you slightly different results. I'm going to go with the soft light here. And I'm going to lower opacity just a little bit. Also, what I've noticed that a lot of his textures have slightly blurred out look to them, just to make it look like the background is further than the model. So I'm gonna go into filter, then gonna go blur and Gaussian blur, and I'm gonna blur it to about 4 here for the radius. I'm gonna press OK. So now I'm gonna go ahead and choose my eraser tool, and it's just asking you if you want to not have this as smart object. I don't really like working with smart objects, so I'm just gonna make it into a regular layer, and with my eraser tool I'm just gonna erase the texture off of the model. I can even go ahead and erase some of the textures off that I think are a little bit too much. Okay, so that looks great. I really like how the texture looks like, and here's the before and after of the texture layer. I'm gonna go ahead and merge these layers now. So now the last thing that we're gonna do is some dodge and burn. Sean uses dodge and burn a lot in his pictures, and that's something that I love using in mine as well. I think it really makes the picture more 3D and more lively, more interesting. So I'm gonna go ahead and do some pretty heavy dodge and burn here on the model. If you guys have watched my other tutorials, I've showed this a million times, but again, I'm gonna show it again for those who are just tuning in for the first time. So I'm going to show you guys how to make your own dodge and burn action right now that you can replay every single time you're editing the picture, and this is going to make your editing go so much faster. So go ahead into window and then actions, and this little window is going to appear. Now I'm going to press this button right here to create a new action, and we're going to call it dodge. So dodge is our highlights, and I like to do this with curves. So I'm going to create an adjustment layer here by clicking this right here. Then I'm going to go into curves. Then taking the curve in the very middle, I'm going to bring it up to about here. Now I just want to click Control I. And that's it, our action is made. You can just stop the recording here, and this is our dodge action. So I'm gonna delete this and show you guys how to play this. You just simply click on the action you just created and press play, and just plays what you just created. Now you can take your brush and you can start brushing it on and dodging your image. So as you can see, that adds those highlights. Now I'm going to show you guys how to make your burn layer. So the same way, you're going to just start your recording. I'm just going to call it burn and start the recording. Create your curves adjustment layer, and now I'm going to grab it here and drag this down to about that. Close it, and then again invert the mask with Control I and stop your recording. So there's your burn action created, and again you can just click on it, press play, and here it plays your action. I'm not going to use the ones that I just created. I'm going to use the ones that I've had here a while ago. I just called them highlight and shadow. Highlight just is dodge and shadow is your burn. So I'm going to go ahead and play my highlight. And the easiest way to understand where to place it is just to look at where the highlights already naturally occur in the image and then intensify them. So I'm going to go ahead and intensify it right over here. By the way, I'm changing the size of my brush with just the brackets on your keyboard. So cupid's bow, nose, cheekbone, lips, a little bit on the chin. Sean brightens up the eyes a lot, so I'm gonna really highlight her eyes over here. Underneath the brow bone really lifts the eye, and let's do it a little bit on the other side as well. Let's put a little bit here on the forehead. He also does dodge and burn the hair quite a lot, so I'm gonna go ahead and intensify all of the highlights on her hair a little bit more. Again, I'm just looking where it's naturally already occurring and just intensifying it there. You can go ahead and make the brush a little bit bigger for some spots. Now I'm gonna go ahead and do this on her collarbone here, a little bit on her shoulders, her neck. I'm gonna even do this on the dress. So right here where the light hits, on the leg, on the arm, I'm gonna go really heavy on the dodge and burn here. So here's before and after on the highlights. I'm gonna tone it down just a little bit, and now I'm gonna go ahead and play my shadow action, which is your burn. I'm gonna go ahead, start with the dress here, especially over here where you have the more shadowy side really want to put a lot of shadows here, and it's going to make her look even skinnier, even smaller than she already is. Again, I'm just looking for the natural shadows and intensifying those. On the face, we want to go ahead again underneath her cheekbone, jawline. Eyebrows, let's make them a little bit darker. Eyelashes, very important. A little bit underneath. Another place that I always place the shadows is underneath the lip. It's going to make them look even bigger. We can even place a little bit around her face. It's going to slim the face down. Alright, so here is before and after on the shadows. So this is all I'm going to do just for the model. So I'm going to go ahead and merge these. Now, Sean really likes to do this kind of halo effect in his images, and he does vignette the images quite a lot as well. So I'm going to use the same highlight and shadow action here for that purpose. So I'm going to choose my highlight action, play it, then I'm going to take a really big soft rounded brush, and I'm just going to go ahead and place it around the model, focusing really in the very middle of her. Now I'm going to take my eraser tool and I'm just going to erase it where the model is. So what it's going to do, it's going to focus our highlight only on the backdrop, not the model. It's going to give us that halo effect where the backdrop is going to seem really bright in the very middle, and then you're going to add some vignetting on the sides to like intensify that effect even more. So here's the before and after. As you can see, the background is a lot lighter in the very middle. I want to do it even more, so I'm going to create another highlight layer, and I'm going to intensify that even more in the middle. Now again, I'm just going to go ahead and delete this off of the model. And as usual, you guys, there are so many ways of doing the same effect. This is why I love Photoshop, because you can do the same thing multiple ways, but then again, this is just the way I like to do it. I think this is the easiest and the most effective way for me. So here's the same effect, even more intensified. Now I'm going to go ahead and play the shadow one, and I'm going to actually apply this with the brush on the very sides. Again, I'm using a very big, soft rounded brush. I'm just going to apply this on the sides of the model to create that really heavy vignetting. All right, so here it is. I think this is it, so I'm just going to go ahead and merge the layers. Now I'm going to create another duplicate layer, and we're going to do some finishing touches in Camera Raw. So I'm going to go into Filter and Camera Raw Filter. I'm going to add a little bit more clarity here. I'm going to get a little bit more vibrance, a little bit of contrast, shadows. I'm going to make this a little bit warmer. Just a slightly, like just one here. Okay, I think that looks great. So this is just what we added to the image with the Camera Raw filter. And I'm going to go ahead and play my sharpening action. I made a whole separate video on how I sharpen my images, so you guys can check that out separately. I will link it in the description down below, but this is the result that it does. It sharpens the image quite really well, and I've noticed that a lot of Sean's pictures are quite sharp. I'm gonna go ahead and merge these layers, and this is it. Here's our final image. So let's go ahead and see the before and after. Alright, so here's our before and after. I hope you guys like this tutorial. Give it a like and subscribe to my channel. And if you haven't seen the actual how to shoot like Sean Archer video, go ahead and check it out. Link will be in the description down below, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye!